Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. This is episode 92. I am Noah.
And I'm Jesse.
All right. I think we have a pretty good evening lined up here for you. Our Scotch of the evening is going to be Aerstone. Aerstone.
Aerstone.
Land Cask. We did previously a few weeks back, maybe about a month back. We did try the Sea Cask, so we're trying the other one here. From there, we'll move into our shout-outs and get it togethers, followed by our restaurant review being Pints Pub, and then into our Smarter Challenge, which is, it was supposed to be Glass Onion, but there's a little bit of a mix-up there, so we switched it over to the Denver Art Museum and the exhibit of saints, sinners, lovers, and fools.
Scotch Reviewed.
All right. Well, as we spoke about last time with the Aerstone distillery, there is no Aerstone distillery. It's actually distilled at the William Grant & Sons Ayza Bay Distillery in Gurdon. So it's one of their productions that William Grant & Sons has begun. This is the 10-year land cask, and it is sure to be interesting, if nothing else. With that, not a ton of history with this, because it is not its own true distillery. It really comes down to that Ayza Bay Distillery, and that's 55 miles south of Glasgow. It is a lowland production, so it's going to be pretty interesting here.
All right, and that bay is off the, was it called the Ayrshire?
Ayrshire, yes, Ayrshire coast.
Okay. And that's where the Sea Cask warehouse is kind of sort of located near.
Yeah, they did a really nice job with the Sea Cask, where they store them and age them right there by the sea. With this one, they aged them a little bit more inland, said to be less briny, more peaty and smoky. So we're going to find out. The Sea Cask was a pleasant surprise, especially for the value. As far as it's about a $35 bottle of scotch, not too expensive. So we will see how the land cask competes.
Well, like anything that's like right around that $35-$39 range. I think we've had a couple little surprises there. I mean, we had the Kirkland Isla, which I know you enjoyed quite a bit. That was like in the $39 range. The Sea Cask was really good. That was a little bit more towards my liking, because I do like that more sea or brine flavor in some of my scotches. And I know there's been a few others that we had in that kind of like 30 to 40, like $30 to $45 range.
Cheap range.
So just because it is in that lower tier doesn't mean it won't be good. Obviously, I think you may have already tried it once before. I have not, so I'm definitely keeping an open mind about it. But you already know my taste buds kind of already with scotch, so maybe you already know how what I'm gonna already think about it. The one thing I did see here, like in their notes, which I didn't find like much of anything on them, they did say here is that it's rich and smoky or smooth and easy. You choose. Sip, savor, and enjoy. But I guess it is in a few miles off the coast, right? More inland, as you were mentioning. So I guess I'm pretty open and willing to try it.
Yeah, here we go with another lowland single malt Scotch whiskey. The box, simple, pleasant.
I do like the boxes.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the box. The bottle, the same. The color, not bad. Not like mind-blowing by any means, but not an ugly box or bottle.
Not at all. I mean, it's not overly flashy, but it's not like dull or boring. And actually, I prefer their packaging over what Kirkland gives us.
No packaging?
Exactly.
To start off, the foil was a nice, rich, thick foil, but it is not embossed. It is not colorful. It is simple and gloss black. The cork is a pressed cork with a plastic topper. Not something I find particularly attractive. It's like going to the ball with rubber gloves on instead of leather gloves to me. But we will see how this does taste.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to say cheers and do our warp speed. Is that where we're at?
That's where we're at. Cheers.
All right. Cheers. So to start off with my analysis on here, and I mean,
Aerstone.
it has like for first with the color, I put down here that it's like a light brassy color. I almost said light copper, but I think it's still like too much like a hue down from copper. So I'm gonna go with like a really light brass. I didn't want to say straw color because it seemed like to me it was like a little bit darker than straw. In any case, when it comes to the nose, the hints that I'm picking up, when I initially smelled it, I was getting like honey, like a hint of like honey sweetness. Like I definitely picked up on some sweetness there, which I believe came from honey, with some like slight hints of brine with some peat. And then when I put it in my palm and I heated it up, I started to get a lot more like floral scents along with tobacco. And I'm not talking like the nasty smelling tobacco. Like I'm talking about like I know I've talked about this before in another episode. Excuse me, but when you open up a fresh packet of like cigarettes, and I don't smoke, but like when you open up that fresh packet of cigarettes and you take that first like smell of it, it has a really nice tobacco.
Smells good.
It does.
My mom has smoked her whole life. Thank you, Mom, for proving smoking doesn't kill.
Yeah, so my mom and my dad both smoked too. So, growing up, and so that's how I got to smell like like those packets of like cigarettes. And I always enjoyed like opening up their packets of cigarettes. So I could just smell them like when I first got a brand new pack there. But that's what I'm kind of getting on the nose there. When it goes to the palate, this is really kind of, I guess, befuddle. I don't know. Is that a word, right? It's really kind of a mystery to me because the palate, when it first hits my palate, I get this initial like sweetness on the tip of my tongue, and then for some reason I can't place anything on the mid palate. When it comes to my mid palate, it just seems like it evaporates or something, and then on the finish, on my back palate there on the finish, this here is also a conundrum here because at times, like on one sip, I'll get like a bunch of spiciness along with hints of smoke, and other times I won't get any spiciness and just like the smoky taste to it. And when I do get the combination of the two, the spiciness is kind of like a cinnamon spice, and it kind of lingers for a little bit. It's a very light bodied Scotch. And this might be something, if I'm just going to go hang out with a bunch of averages, like
Average Joe.
Average Joes, right? No, I was going to, that was the word that was going to come out of my mouth. But what I meant to say is like, if I was going to go to like a poker game with like, with friends that don't, that aren't taking like Scotch too seriously or the poker game too serious or anything like that. I could see myself bringing something like this to that game. This Scotch isn't really going to knock the socks off of anybody, but I think it is like, for the $39 range or whatever it was that you mentioned, it's still fairly quaffable. It's not terrible. It does have some, I think it's easy to drink. It's not like that hard to drink at all. It doesn't have like that overpowering, like, Scotch flavor that some people don't like. So to me, it seems like it's fairly quaffable, but it's not, like I said, I don't think it's going to impress anybody. I definitely would use it in cooking. And you know, like in here coming from like when I used to buy wine and stuff, and people would come to me and they would ask me when for help when they were buying wine, and that they're going to cook, and they're like, well, what wine would you suggest for cooking? And I would always tell them I would never cook with a wine that I wouldn't drink. So even though I said I would use this for cooking, yeah, I would drink this, but it wouldn't be like my go-to. But I think it's decent enough to where you could drink it and use it in your cooking. I probably use it a little bit more in my cooking than I would in my drinking, but I think it's still pretty good. I would not take it to a nice event. I would share it with friends. I take it to a party, and I would take it to a party where I'm not trying to impress anybody. I think it makes for a decent everyday scotch. I just don't know how well it would hold up over time. I don't think this would be like a scotch where I drink like 1 or 2 drams and then hold off for like 2-3 months before I have another drink, because I just don't know how well it would hold up. Maybe it will hold up well with the flavors. Maybe you might actually, maybe that when the oxygen actually touches it more and it's been open, maybe it might bring out other flavors, but usually that's not the case. So overall, I'd give it for the price point, I'd give it a thumbs up. But also in that price range, I'd probably go with the Cask more than this one. And I think there's other, like, I'd even go with probably the Kirkland Isla over this one. I think the Kirkland Isla just has like a lot more flavors to deliver than this. This one, like I said, this one can almost be forgettable. And it's just because I don't think there's anything in there that really says, hi, I'm here. It's just kind of blends in the background.
Well, for me, the color is definitely a medium gold, not rich and deep, not super light or sunny. The nose is the win for this. The nose on this scotch is unbelievably great for a $30 scotch. It's full of rich peat, a little smoke. I get that zesty citrus mixed with the floral notes. It's super exciting. It's like the perfect buildup. It's like filter on, right? The girl takes the filter and then you meet her and it's a whole different story. That is the difference between when you smell this and when it hits your palate. It is great. I even get the hints of brine from the Cask, which I thought was outstanding for the price point. Then you get to the palate. And it is not half of what was on the nose. Hints of peat, some smoke for sure, and the finish goes from that smoke to cinnamon. Very subtle hints of floral and citrus, but not a robust scotch, a very light-bodied scotch, as you mentioned. Nothing that I'm going out of my way to drink. To celebrate, that is for sure, or to wow anyone. Take it to a poker night where people might be smoking cigars. Absolutely. This is your scotch. Again, the finish, long, smoke, oak. It returns to that peat. I do enjoy on the finish. I actually enjoy the finish more than I like the body, because you get that revisitation of the peat and the smoke and the hints of oak from the barrels. And one of my favorites, a little taste of leather, just a little bit way on the edge. What I will say though is eating the charcuterie board while sampling this scotch, man, this scotch makes the flavors pop, and the flavors that make this scotch pop are definitely the salty meats, which makes sense if it's a briny scotch. The salty meats, wow, the scotch is fantastic after those. It was mild after the berries, but the berries popped. It was mild after the cheeses, and we're talking about an Irish cheddar and a Parmigiano Reggiano. but it made those cheeses pop. The green olive was fantastic. The Scotch reminds me of that light-bodied white wine you drink when you are trying not to interfere with all the flavors of a delicate meal. That is this Scotch. So it does have a place. I don't know that it's on my counter, but not bad. For a delicate charcuterie board meal or something simple. If you're trying to introduce someone to what a Scotch can be long term, this is a great introduction. It's a great way to start someone because on the nose, they're going to get all these hints of things that Scotch can be. On the palate, they're not going to be overly stimulated and bothered by anything because that's not there. And then on the finish, again, it's a lot like a room temperature white wine in the middle of summer when you're just eating some melon, some berries, some fruit, and drinking a simple wine and trying to keep it all easygoing, or a very light prosecco. Definitely not champagne. True champagne always has way more body than this, but it is fun nonetheless with the charcuterie board. Would I go out of my way to buy it? No. Would I buy its sister, the Sea Cask? Absolutely. I would take the Sea Cask to a poker game 10 times out of 10 over this one. But again, if I was having a bunch of friends over who were like, why do you drink Scotch, Jesse? And I'm going to try to introduce them. I actually think this is like the gateway Scotch.
Maybe. Maybe. It has a place, but not on my shelf. I think that's probably the best line so far tonight.
You got 99 problems and you ain't one.
It's time for our shout outs.
2 shout outs. Mila finishing her first semester of college. Awesome job, Mila. And Aiden winning your basketball game with your team, even though you were sick as could be. Didn't have a ton of play time, but made it count when you did. 100% on his free throws. Man, the other team was fouling. He was lucky he drew a foul because the refs were kind of blind to some of those. But awesome job. Cheers to you, Mila. First semester down. Cheers to you, Aiden. Those 2 points made a difference. Awesome job to your whole team.
All right. Well, I only have one this week, and it kind of plays into last week still, and that was the University of Colorado. They actually went through and they actually did hire Deion Sanders. His contract level is like close to $6 million a year, and I think it's amazing because, and I didn't really think about this, but when it comes to Power 5 schools, there's not a lot of Power 5 schools that have hired a black coach. And I guess the SEC really has like no black coaches. And Colorado, at the University of Colorado, there's actually been 3. He mixed 3 in a row that are black coaches. We had Mel Tucker, who like left in the middle of the night, which is why we have dubbed him Midnight Mel. And then after that, they hired Carl Durrell, and then now we've hired Deion Sanders. And then previously before that, there's Coach Embry, who was a tight end for the University of Colorado previously. So that's for black coaches. So that, shout out to them for taking a risk with Deion Sanders. I don't think it's really a risk. I mean, in his current team, he's gotten undefeated basically 2 years in a row during the regular season. So I think Deion Sanders is going to be a good hire. And he's actually they've even talked about how after he announced and they did their press conference on Sunday, that 200 athletes have reached out in the portal to say that they want to come play for Coach Sanders.
That's a start. That's a win right there.
It is a total win. And these are a lot of these players are former 4-star or 5-star players coming out of high school and that are leaving their current schools. And basically they see okay, Coach Prime is coming, and they're like, I want to go play for Coach Prime. And he totally flipped the script on Colorado, because Colorado used to be a perennial powerhouse. We always used to be in the top 25 when Bill McCartney was there. and Neuheisel was there, and all up until when Barnett was there, and then when that fiasco happened, then we went downhill. It's been about 17, 20 years of being lost. But now with Deion Sanders, there's a whole lot of like hype and renewed faith in the University of Colorado and its brass, trying to, thinking we'll get back to our winning ways in college or college football. On the flip side, I'm going to bring in my get it together. I think when people are having success and they're jealous of other people, they make comments that are not very, positive or polite. And there's a lot of people who are out there who not only like trash talk the University of Colorado for hiring Sanders, but there's a lot of people who trash talk Sanders for taking the position at the University of Colorado. And really, I think people need to understand that, that's probably, I get it. People get jealous of other people or whatever, or, they have what you don't have, or, people try to talk, knock people off their game and stuff like that. So, just in that sense, I'm going to say for those people who are trying to knock other people down, when they're having success, just get it together.
It's a pretty good get it together. My get it together is just to keep an eyes open. So I've had a lot of people talk with me lately about how, wow, gas has gone down and I don't understand it. And I try to communicate with them. So why do you think it's gone down? I don't know. The economy's doing really well. Actually, that is one of the biggest clues that demand has plummeted or is going way down. I guess plummeted might be an overly strong word, but the demand for fuel, gasoline, has decreased. But the bigger thing here to keep your eyes open to is that everyone from a global standpoint, anyone who's really conscious about economics moving forward, knew this was going to happen. Come this time, when the economy went down, when people started to realize we truly are in a recession, even though the inflation is starting to reach lower levels, still way too high, but even though it is still it's starting to be curtailed, the politicians were trying to use this as a tool that they had zero impact on. So my example would be Biden saying he was going to reduce fuel costs and he was going to go talk with OPEC Plus right before the midterm elections, and all of these things happened, and he got nothing he went after. He didn't get OPEC Plus to increase production. They actually decreased it. He didn't get anything he went after. However, had he gotten one of those things, how many people would be crediting him for the fuel prices going down right now? A lot. That is not the case at all. Keep in mind, economics and politics are closely related and do have impacts on each other. However, there is also a point where they are completely not related. And this is a prime example of how Biden and every one of his efforts to impact fuel prices had zero impact, and we're still heading in the right direction.
I think it's odd that you said that. Some people are saying that the economy is doing well or whatever. Like, think about this. They say like gas is going down, and so therefore the economy must be doing well. Well, if you're paying 20 to 30% higher on your meats, milk, and other living expenses, you can get to a point where people are going to be like, do I buy a gallon of milk for my kids to put in cereal, or do I buy a gallon of gas? And obviously, when you're faced with that, like, do I put a roof over my head or food on my table versus gas in my car? I'm not going to drive around I'm not me personally, but like everyone out there, or most people are going to be like, I'm not going to drive my car around as much and go do other things. So I'm going to stop going out as much. I'm going to stop doing other things. And so, yeah, demand for gas will go down.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, man, all the people who are celebrating how big sales were for Black Friday, they're not even as high as inflation was. So that is not a win. take a moment, just think about it for yourself. I'm not trying to pull or twist any arms. I'm just asking people to really think about these numbers. And when sales go up, hey, even 5%, but inflation's almost 10, sales didn't go up. They actually went down almost 5. So my get it together is not a get it together. It's just, hey, continue to educate yourself on the economics and policies and politics that are being played and will continue to have pretty interesting impacts over the next 2 years as we get to our next presidential election.
Learn economics. Get it together.
Get it together. It is tough. I'm glad my kids have sound heads on their shoulders and are managing their money very well right now. So shout out.
Restaurant Review.
Pints Pub, right there by the Denver Art Museum, a little British pub, if you will. They don't have some huge selection of beer. It really is not. It's a very small selection of beer. And it's also a very, very small selection of wine. They do have beer, they do have wine, and they have one tequila.
Honestly, I think that's funny you mentioned that because like when we first went there, I was hoping to get like maybe a Guinness or a nice like European stout.
Not so. Mostly their own brews. With that, though, what they do have is an exorbitant amount of scotch.
Yes, they do.
With that, quite a fantastic selection. And an interesting, true British fare for food.
First getting there, unless you kind of know where you're going, I think it might be easy to kind of miss them on the corner where they're located. But I mean, you can definitely tell that where it's located if you look for the red telephone booth. When
Insert picture here.
When you do go inside, the first thing I notice is like the staircase and like the front area before you actually enter into the door is they have carpet. I don't know who puts carpet outside, but obviously it's all matted down and old and dirty and nasty because it snows in Colorado and it rains in Colorado. And honestly, whoever decided to do that probably needs to remove that, in my opinion.
I'm guessing it's a British thing.
Maybe, but I don't remember seeing any of that stuff when I was in London or in Ireland or
London's calling.
When you first, and then when you walk in, it does remind me of a English pub or even an Irish pub somewhat, and it has like a lot of that nice woodwork in there and stuff like that. And the amount of scotch that they have in the bar area is amazing. It really is, especially for here stateside in a landlocked state like Colorado. Now, when looking at the beer menu, because I didn't really want to drink scotch, before we went to go to the Denver Art Museum. So I was looking for a pint, and I was kind of surprised that they didn't have any like English pints as far as like from Fuller's or any of the Newcastle or any of the other like English breweries. But they do make their own beer. I did try. I don't even remember which one I tried. I think it was a darker one. I thought it was going to be kind of malty, but the malt wasn't really there. It was still good, but it wasn't a home run for me. Maybe a solid second base if we're talking baseball analogies. But the food, I was kind of excited. I thought I wasn't really like psyched about like the appetizers. Some of the appetizers there, I was kind of looking for something more like towards the English side. Oh, I got the Scottish ale, which is the Gale Force.
Gale Force.
Okay. Sorry about that pause there. Thank you, Jesse, for giving me that. When I looked at the, like I said, when I was looking at the appetizers, wasn't super excited about the appetizers that they had there. It just didn't seem like it would go with English food, like English pub food, pub fare, I guess. Then looking at the actual meals that they had like what said like fish and chips, and I thought it was going to be a really cool take on fish and chips because instead of like using cod, It said salmon. So I'm like, all right, this is kind of cool. They use salmon instead of cod. All right, this might be something different for fish and chips. They had bangers and mash on there. They had shepherd's pie, which is more Irish than it is English. But, in any case, they had some English, Irish, like pub fare, Scottish maybe a little bit. Good thing they didn't have haggis on the menu. I don't know who would want to eat that. But in any case, I went with the fish and chips. And they did say they used salmon in there. So, but I was expecting fish and chips. What we would normally expect from fish and chips, like battered fish, deep fried, with some tartar sauce to dip it in, some malt vinegar, and the chips I was expecting more like wedges. I was thinking like English pub, more like English or Irish type of food fare. And we got these like little tiny thin fries. Mine weren't super crispy or anything. They kind of seemed a little bit soggy, to tell you the truth. When I add some salt on it still tasted pretty decent. The salmon itself, if I was expecting a salmon fillet, which it did say salmon in there, and it probably said salmon fillet, but I didn't really, I saw my mind was stuck on fish and chips. The salmon was actually really tasty. It was actually really, really good. I liked the salmon. And then it also came with a side salad. And the side salad was good. And they didn't use the iceberg lettuce. So that was definitely a plus for me, because we know I don't like iceberg lettuce. And they had I think it was these cherry tomatoes, but they're like green cherry tomatoes or something. And that was actually kind of nice. I think that made for a nice flavor there. So I was happy with the salad part. I was just disappointed because I was expecting more of a traditional fish and chips type of dish. And I was expecting more like what we here in the States would call wedges instead of thin fries. So if I take my expectations out, I think the food was an 8. If I put my bias in with my expectations of what a fish and chips are supposed to be, I would give it a 5.
That's fair.
The ambiance, I dug the ambiance, so I give that an 8, a pretty solid 8. The wait staff, our first waitress, she was decent. She's, pretty much on the spot. When we asked for more time, she gave us more time. But when we went back the second time after we went through the exhibit and we got that other bartender, that female bartender, she was cool as beep. And it's kind of cool because we only sat there for 10-15 minutes with her, and she told us some a couple of cool stories and stuff like that. And honestly, I really enjoyed that part of the pub, visiting that pub more than I did our actual lunch that we had there. Would I take a first date there? Yeah, I would. I definitely would. I may not order the salmon or the fish and chips, but I definitely take a first date there. Would I meet some friends there? Yeah, I definitely would meet some friends there. And overall, I know you do a different. I'm still doing going off our old scale of just straight up 1 to 10. I'm gonna give it an 8 actually. Even though I said the food, I would give it a, like I said. I just expected something different than what I got, but it really, when I read when I actually read the information there, I shouldn't have been surprised by what I got. I think the title of it just kind of we think in pictures, and I just expected something else. And but overall, I enjoyed the place. It was fun, and I liked it, and I definitely would go back. So I'm gonna give it an 8.
That's a high score, honestly. That's a really high score for an experience that could have been rated much lower, for sure, based on a normal scale. So we're talking about Pints Pub here, right by Denver Art Museum. And for me, I've been there a couple of times now, and it was fun. Now, the tricky part is they're doing all sorts of goddamn traffic road construction, this, that, and the other around there. So I had to go around 3 different closed roads to get there. So we were running a little bit late. And I feel bad about that from the simple stance of an hour should have been enough time to eat. Once you get to the 50-minute mark, though, you do start to it crunches time. We get there. It is not something impressive at all from the outside, but they've got the British flag flying and the red telephone booth, and it's cool. A little nostalgia, a little fanfare, whatever you may call it. It was fun from that standpoint. You go in, you did mention the carpeted steps. I love them. I agree with you. It's ridiculous because, especially with modern times, magnesium chloride's absolutely going to destroy any of the fibers that are in those carpets in a couple of years. But at the same time, man, not having to do salt, it gets rid of the water. If you're close to an ocean, Britain, yeah, it's probably something that they do. Go inside. It is not freshly polished. It is pub status, and it is cool pub status. It is fun. It is mature. It is aged. And what I mean by that is it's the type of place you see in a movie like The Other Guys, where they're going around getting drunk after a bad night at work and shooting up the place. That is this place. There are gouges and scratches and scuffs on the tables and the bar. There are good people and there are gruff people. We went during lunchtime, and the one turn off for me during lunchtime, I agree with you, is our waitress she wasn't bad. She just wasn't good. She was gruff. She's like, need more time? Fine. God damn. Where the hell did you go? When I said I need more time, I was talking 5 seconds, not a minute. And she was back prompt. But nonetheless, she was gone. I started my meal with the Aerstone ale, and it was great. It was clean. That's the best way to put it. It was a good ale. It was exactly what I expected. Having it a couple of times before. And I do actually feel bad about one other thing. And that is when you ordered the fish and chips, I really felt like I should have forewarned you, because the description is exactly what it says it is.
It is.
It's exactly what it says it is. But every other time I've ever ordered it there, or heard anyone order it there, the waitress is always like, okay, I just want to make sure you know this is not cod. This is salmon. I want you to know it's X, Y, and Z. And they always give this great description. Our waitress was again, she wasn't bad. She just wasn't good. So we ordered the New World fish and chips. Now here is how they describe it. Britannia waives the rules with our satisfying char-grilled salmon fillet, which is exactly what it was, the char-grilled salmon fillet, and hand-cut fries. And I actually wish my hand-cut fries were a little bit meatier like you did. Like you said, I think that's absolutely true. But the salad was fantastic. The salmon was on point. It was actually grilled flawlessly. It was super tender. It was fantastic. I had seen it, so I knew what I was getting. But when I saw your face, when you saw the place, you're like, what the copper?
Look, it's my own fault. I know it said salmon fillet on there, but for some reason, my mind it was not connecting with fish and chips with salmon fillet, and it just went straight to fish and chips. And it was exactly what it stated on the menu.
Yeah.
So that's why I can't be upset with it. But at the same time, I was disappointed because I was actually wanting more fish and chip. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. So, then we got, though, one thing we did wrap up with, we had to decide, are we going to go race to this exhibit, Saints, Sinners, Lovers, and Fools? Not a super busy visit. And then, honestly, as much as I hate it, I love it on a day like today where I'm yeah, man, let's have a dram and run just a little bit late to the exhibit. So we did just that. And when you had your dram, I actually had a flight.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I learned something. I learned something today. Before you say what you got, before you go further, what I learned is when it says on a menu, there's a flight. Go with the flight. Go with the flight of scotch. Don't go with the one dram. Go with the flight of scotch. That's what I learned. And everyone, if you go there, Just go to Flight it. Go to Flight of Scotch. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. So Noah did select a Scotch to have a dram of, and I went with the Highlands to the Islands flight. And it had a lowland, a highland, a speyside, and an island from Isla dram of Scotch from each of those 4 places. And each one of them was fantastic without going into a ton of a detail and stealing from the Aerstone. It was actually... I love having flights of anything, wine, scotch, foods, meats, cheeses, anything. I love it when I can compare, with cheeses, the nuttiness, or with meats, the saltiness even sometimes, or with wine, the oakiness or the earthiness. Like you really start getting those French or Italian wines and you start to compare that. There's nothing better than that except for when you're comparing scotches. And with this, I had this opportunity to enjoy this flight of scotch. It was fantastic. I highly recommend the Lowlands of the Islands flight of scotches. They're $25, literally unbeatable.
It was. I mean, here's the thing, right? When you talk about flights, when you go to a bar and they talk about flights of beer, they give you like little tiny pours of a bunch of little tiny beers. And in that case, I'd rather just drink a pint. And here, I got 1 dram, and then your 4 drams of your flight were all the same size as my 1 dram. And we're talking a difference maybe of like $8. You walked away the winner there.
Winning!
So I've learned if you see flight of scotch, just do the flight of scotch. Don't do the 1 dram. Just do the flight of dram. Do the flight.
It was a fantastic way to finish our lunch before going to our newfound Smarter Challenge.
Smarter Challenges.
The Denver Art Museum Saints, Sinners, Lovers, and Fools, a Fleming art exhibit for the golden age of Flanders. With that, fun exhibit. Right now, they're charging $20 a ticket. If you're a member, you get a little bit of a discount. So it's $12 a ticket. If you're a member, $20 regular. Definitely, I am a member. I love the Denver Art Museum. I go really almost any time I get a chance, and definitely stop by Pints Pub more often than not lately to have a flight of scotch. As I as well have learned. And with that, though, this art exhibit is fantastic. It is an experience of roughly 300 years of Flemish art, the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries. And your experience is vast. You're looking at a changing world, much like we're living in today. However, I don't know that art's going to have or tell the same story 300 years from now, as we're talking about, or 400 years from now. How do they have an exhibit of our modern time 400 years from now that does the justice of this Flemish art? So we're basically talking about the territory that is Belgium in Europe, and really all of the fights, the wars. You've got the Spaniards, and the Romans are like, yeah, we're not interested in that. That doesn't seem sexy to us. But meanwhile, you've got the Catholics versus the Protestants. So you've got religion going on and wars there. And it's just this fantastic piece of art showing the humanity and experiences therein, what it meant to be poor, what it meant to be rich or well-to-do. And in this area where there's this river and water is the case, even in Scotland, you got to have water to make scotch. Really what it meant to flourish in that time, in that area.
Okay. You surprised me. I wasn't sure we were jumping right into the museum part. I was waiting for your point scale on the Pints Pub.
I'm right there with you. It's an 8. It's surprisingly good. It's a mid-roll range restaurant to me. It's not a fast food joint. It is not a high class joint. Would I take a date there? Absolutely. Would I go there with a friend? Absolutely. Is it fun? Yes. Is it sexy from the outside? No, but it's still fun.
All right, thanks. So I was like, oh, we're there.
No, that's absolutely my bad because I'm like, man, I'm so excited to talk about, and I'm just like, man, I've been here before. I know it's an 8. Oh wait, they don't.
So now that we're on the subject of the Smarter Challenge, the Denver Art Museum, I haven't really been there since I don't know, I think probably junior high or high school or something like that. So it's been quite a while. But I have been to like art museums in Amsterdam, and Philadelphia, and some other places.
Philly
has a great art museum. And then Amsterdam has quite a few, and I've been to some art museums in Germany and stuff like that. So this, first of all, talking about this Flemish exhibit here that we experienced today, it reminded me of the art museum where I went to in Amsterdam, where I got to see the Night's Watchman.
Jealous.
And it had some this exhibit had some really incredible oil paintings. Some of them with the way the lighting was just made it pop. It's just amazing how much they I guess I mastered their craft is what I want to say. And some of the coloring that they use, and some of the books that they had there, with the gold leaf or what, I'm not even sure how they got the gold stuff to go in there. Is it like gold ink or what? I have no idea what it is, but it was kind of cool how they wrote some of that stuff. And really, they're big. I guess I don't know if it was their aha moment or their big display thing, but I think it had to do with the Diane and her nymphs hunting. I think that was their big, this is our big thing. But that wasn't my favorite painting.
Mine either.
And to tell you the truth, should I go here? What my favorite painting? I'm not sure how you want to go with this, but my favorite here is on the placard. It says it was called Hell. But when I went to go look for more information on the artist and stuff when we got back before we started doing this, I found it on the internet as called Garden of Earthly Delights. And so I think it was kind of weird how, and it took me a while to find that too, because I'm like, I would figure they'd actually put the name of the painting on there. But by calling it Hell, I think on the placard, it kind of goes along with that whole saints, sinners, lovers, and fools thing. But it's by Harmonius Bosch. And his depictions of hell from his works have influenced the likes of David Bowie in the short film Black Star, Michael Jackson's Dangerous album cover, Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy movie, and he's also his work has actually started to, I guess, has been revitalized by the pulp culture through some of his works. I guess some of the paintings or some of the scenes and stuff like that popping up on stuff like Doc Martin skateboards. It's been in South Park.
Wow, there's your own personal hell.
Some depictions that were used with the Silent Hill horror franchise. And I got this information from Nathan Dune from The Atlantic. I usually don't read The Atlantic because I just don't agree with their politics. But this was a pretty decent article talking about Bosch. And he actually had changed. That's not his real name either. He actually changed his name so that way he could attract more patrons. And his name is something like Jeroen von Aken or something like that. He kind of abandoned the traditional idea of what hell was back then, where it's just you were tormented by fire, and kind of went with more of a fantasy or fantastical underworld of hell where torture was happening. I think in that particular painting, you saw some kind of bird thing taking a
You see little people coming out of orifices of everything. Like, it's just like, what is going on here?
Body parts being chopped up and stuff like that. And I think and really like this whole, and I think the actual Garden of Earthly Delights is kind of is a proper name for it, because when you think about it, it's talking about how people are attached to these earthly delights, and because of that becomes the human's downfall. And the way he painted these sceneries and his pictures about hell, and in particular this one here, is that he wanted to basically scare people to God.
They were using, even back then, art to manipulate
people. And that was kind of pretty prevalent in the art show or in the exhibit, because they talked about that a few times, about how maybe the royalty in the area or whatever was using art to kind of like persuade people to come together or things like that, or go towards God. But that was my favorite piece there.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that really emphasizes the point of, again, they're using art to manipulate, and that is the right word, or to attempt to manipulate, to influence, if nonetheless, the masses to decide, are they Protestant or are they going to go Catholics, or are they going with the Spanish or the other direction? And ultimately, the Netherlands were split in two, half and half, so to speak. Who got the bigger half? Who knows? It's like the wishbone in a turkey for Thanksgiving, right? Does it really matter? No, unless your wish comes true. Neither of those wishes have come true. With that, though, it is this ever-going piece of art that I love about this exhibit. They're really talking about the times. And that's when I say, like, how are they going to, if they talk about 1980 to 2020, how does that show up in art? Like, how jacked up is that art? And does anyone want to see it? Because when we're talking about the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries with the Flemish, they've got art that is really showing that, hey, if you had money, you had a portrait, you had paintings, you had things, and you put them in a building at that point in time where no one else ever saw them unless you invited them into your house. So it was a collection. So it's actually no different than a coin or a stamp, or is very, very common today, a watch. So you're collecting these things that no one gets to see unless you share them. And I think that's where really the play on religion that I love comes into all of this art, is because it's like, those are all sins. This is absolutely a sin. But meanwhile, we have these portraits. They're beautiful paintings of a couple. Originally, it was 5 men, and all these paintings in this massive room around them of all sorts of things. And meanwhile, the most important and impactful piece of this giant painting, big painting, not giant. Big painting is the lower left-hand corner where the dog and the monkey are fighting, right?
Right, I remember that one.
And they're really like making fun of, this is stupid. Like, you guys are being controlled by your possessions, even back then, 15th to 16th, 17th century. So now we've gone centuries beyond that. Haven't learned a damn thing. We're still the same human beings. And I loved that. As far as, I don't know that I can say I have a favorite portrait in there, but one of the ones that I do enjoy, that I think is great, that is very impactful, is right when you enter, and it's a Pantry with Game by Franz Snyder, approximately 1640, and you have all of these different animals that have been slain. Who are you feeding? An army? Again, what's the point? You have venison and wild boar and geese and duck and you're going to eat that damn peacock you killed? Like, I remember thinking that when I saw it. What is the point of killing all of this? It's just going to go to waste. They can't eat that fast enough. And I think that's the tragedy with the beauty of this art. So some of this art was done on canvas. Some of it was done in wood. Some of it was panels where they could close the doors. And I did enjoy that piece of it. But what was also really resonant, and you mentioned this while we were there, is their use of what I'm going to call edges. And what you really emphasized was color. So the reds right next to the blacks, the gold, the silver, all of these things just popping. You can't deny.
Well, I think that's something you get from oil paintings, especially on canvas and stuff like that, where you get these, like, some of these colors, especially with the right lighting on it. Like, certain colors just pop with how these artists paint them. Another thing I noticed here on these oil paintings is, like, they're painting them on copper too. I was just amazed by it, and I really do like it. Kind of like reminded me of just being back in Europe and stuff like that, seeing some of these great oil paintings. And I think you were saying, like, how do they kind of like make these kind of like exhibits match up with with today's time and stuff like that. And I think that's a really good point, because there's a couple of paintings in there and they've kind of like said like what the meanings were, but if you weren't from that time period or maybe even from that area, I don't think you'd catch on to some of those kind of like little like jabs, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. What was COVID?
But, like, there's like the one where the guy who was counting like pieces of barley, and that was just kind of a gist that like guys are like, at that point in time, men would never hang out in the pantry or in the kitchen, and it was kind of a joke or just about like how like you're only doing this because you're annoying or whatever like that. The guy's being annoying, and it's kind of like more of a play towards like how women are annoying. And it was kind of like, it was interesting to read or hear about that. But I think in today's time, you probably would not have picked up on that little bit there, or like the one where like it had like a kind of like three or it had like four little pictures, like with the globe and something like that, and talking about like what was it, about spoonful of something or other.
Yes. It was even fools need to eat, I think, was the ultimate point of that. And
I think part of it got lost in translation, because if you don't know the Dutch, you wouldn't have necessarily gotten it in English.
Yeah, for sure. That's a brilliant point.
So those little nuances from like generational nuances versus like cultural nuances. I think those are things that it would be harder for maybe another like 20 maybe another 100 years of this exhibit being posted up again, that people might like, get lost in those translations or picking up on those nuances unless someone talks about it.
Yeah, what did it mean to be a fool? And the portrait you're speaking about is "The World Feeds Many Fools" by Juan Macis, and it's a really good portrait, but it's also like, what the hell are these two idiots doing? Like, who paints that on top of that? It's a great piece. So with this. With your whole museum experience, what was your most memorable or favorite part?
I think really the whole day is my whole favorite part. I love like that we went to a English pub and then went over to check out a European exhibit. So it was basically like a European type of day without having to leave Denver, Colorado.
It's like self-care.
It is. It was just enjoyable for me. I love. I don't do it as often as I probably should, but I do love. I love art. I love going to the art museum. I love going to like the ballet. I love going to the sea plays and stuff. I love the arts. I personally can't do it. I think that's the reason why I appreciate it. I'll draw a stick figure and it still doesn't look good.
The fuck is that?
Exactly. I can't play any musical instruments. So I definitely appreciate the arts, and I love how I love how these people are taking the time to master their craft, and it's really weird because like some of these people didn't even start off that way. Because like another painting that I really enjoyed, it's called the Allegory of Folly, is what it's on the internet, but there on the placard didn't say that. The placard said, "Keep your mouth shut." And this is something by a guy named Quentin Mastis. And he was actually trained as a blacksmith. And once he found his wife or whatever, his wife was a daughter of an artist. And he learned how to become an artist and got admitted into the Painters Guild. So I think if you, I think there's a book called like something about, I think it's like 10,000 hours or whatever. I forget what it is. But if you spend like approximately 10,000 hours, you become a master or whatever. And I think and I think this is cool because like that guy's painting, even though it's kind of like goofy and weird because it has a picture of a fool with like a stone coming out of the forehead and donkey ears and a rooster's head coming off the top of his hat and some kind of like little midget guy giving you the moon.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes, that is the one. I think that artist, just by reading that a little bit about his history, tells you that you can achieve anything you want if you put your mind to it. And I think that's kind of a cool aspect of that. And I didn't learn that at the Denver Art Museum there. That was something I found when we got back before we started shooting. But yeah, just like the overall, like the impression, the feelings you get, learning and enjoying just the masterful pieces of art is amazing. So that's, I don't know if that really answers your question about what I enjoyed the most.
No, I think it does. And, for me, it was just really what popped, right? Like when you think about the time, that's what popped. And for me, you actually gave me this gift when we entered the museum and we went and got our stickers. And this is going to sound so trivial at first because for me, I go to the museum like on days off and stuff, and it doesn't seem like it should be that big of a deal. But here's what was a big deal. And that is we walk in and we go get our little stickers they give you that most people put on lampposts and stuff on the way out. And for me, I like to keep them because for me, usually those stickers actually are symbolic of something that is an exhibit or something that's going on that you're seeing. And when we walked up to the counter, hey, we're here for the show. I'm a member. Here's my number. What do you need? Here's your stickers. And she gave us 2 stickers. And these were the stickers I got the last time I go to the museum was Fools. And
so did you already go to this exhibit before?
Yeah.
Oh, so you had already seen it.
Yeah. Opening. Okay. Like literally like that's one of my flaws is when something opens, I like have to go if I can be opening. And so I had gone, but even if you don't go to the exhibit, you still get a sticker for the museum.
Oh, okay.
With that though, I had gotten the sticker for Fools. And I just took it and I went to the exhibit. But however, this afternoon when we went, the young lady hands us 2 stickers and I give Noah his and he's like, wait a minute. Whoa. I see you got 4 types of stickers there, and I'm giving my own verbiage into this. This isn't exactly how it played out, but he's like, why do we have to be fools? Or do we have to be fools? Do we have to be fools? And I loved that because she's like, no. And so the second he said that, I'm like, well, hell. And she's like, what do you want to be? And I'm like, sinner. And why this is, when we talk about these different stickers they put on you, there's the fool and there's the sinner. When we talk about that, and that's the book you can purchase about the art for the exhibit, is it really reminded me, hey, this is something that you have to remember. It's not always easy. You have to immerse yourself. You have to let go of so many things. Yeah, you just had a flight of scotch at Pints Pub across the street, now it's time for art. Are you really immersing yourself? Are you really considering the purpose or the benefit of this exhibit and really doing that? And so it was a great reminder to me of, I don't want to be the fool.
It's funny that you brought that up because it was like, that would be something that I probably, wouldn't have mentioned. But yeah, when she gave us those 2 stickers that said fools, I'm like, are you trying to tell me that I'm a fool? Like, I didn't like, it wasn't like, I don't think she really thought about it. She's like, I just had these two stickers right here. They're already pre-cut or whatever. Here you go. Here's your stickers and go in. But noticing that there were other options there, I'm like, well, I don't want to be known as a fool. Like, I don't want to be the fool. Like, why, like, to me, it's like, I'm not a fool for going to go see an art exhibit. And that's why, and I did it jokingly. I'm like, do I have to be a fool? Yeah. And she's like, no, you don't have to be a fool. And then you're like, did I saw you like, well,
God damn it, I'm not going to be a fool.
And then she like looked at you, she saw your face, and you're like, she's like, well, what do you want to be? And you're like, I want to be a sinner. And then I'm like, yeah, I'll be a sinner too, because here's the thing. If you're going to go see an art exhibit from the 15th, 16th, and 17th century, you have to realize like Christianity was much, much bigger back then. And people who like hung out at pubs or drinking, like that wasn't really seen as like something that was
you
like
were sinning.
Yeah, that's not really a saintly type of thing. And even on top of that, even if you like studied religion just a little bit or even like Western civilization, like a lot of things, like unless you live like a pristine lifestyle, you're a sinner. Like you're just like, you're born a sinner, you're a sinner. Like, so I'm like, yeah, I'm a sinner. So like, just give me that. Cause like, I know I screw up all the time. So, I went with the sinner thing. I couldn't choose a lover because I don't have a wife or girlfriend or any kids or anything like that. So I'm not going to choose that. I guess I could have chosen a fool. I guess I could have been a fool, but I didn't want to be a fool. So,
and the only women in any of that art that were worthy of being a lover were gods, and you can't do that.
Why not?
They will kill you.
They will. Yes, they will kill you.
Look, there she is hunting. You're gonna die.
the one piece of art I did like though that had a woman in there was the. I think on the placard, once again, not the real name. It was the Garden of Eden with the 4 elements.
Yes. Beautiful piece of work, actually.
It was. And it's by Dennis, I guess, von Osloot. And it's known as Paradise with the 4 elements. But it shows like it's basically the Garden of Eden where you see Adam and Eve by the tree of knowledge, getting ready to eat an apple. And then right next to the tree, you see them being exited out. And you also see the 4 elements of earth, wind, fire, and water.
Yeah. One that freaked me out was the guy with the fire. It was like,
yeah, the fire guy looked kind of retarded.
You don't need to be in this painting.
Yeah, I think they could have done something better for the fire guy. The wind guy seemed okay. The water person kind of made me. I had to like double check the water person. The only reason why I kind of picked up on the water is because like there was like a little bit of blue around her, but there's all the seashells. That's what kind of like that's what kind of pointed that part out.
Yeah. I really do think the other thing I take away as you begin this exhibit is you understand there was a love and a hate relationship with religion. And some of the little baby Jesus, they were so cute. You want that kid to be yours. And the other ones are like, oh, what the hell is this 90-year-old man doing coming out of a vagina?
Yeah, some of those like little baby Jesus heads look like a 90-year-old guy.
Oh my God.
Oh, and like the ones that you're talking about that had like that folded or opened up. Those were called altar paintings because you put them over an altar, and usually you found them in churches. But then as like people became more and more affluent or got more and more money because of the merchant class, they started having those in their own homes, and they would have paintings on the outside of them. But then when it came for like a special night, a special event, like maybe like in our days, it would be like Christmas or Easter or Thanksgiving, then you would open it up, and then that would show you like the Trinity or when Jesus was born with, the 3 kings and that type of stuff.
The other thing I will say is after you get over the beautiful baby Jesus and the hideous baby Jesus is you get to the point where you're like, oh, the ultra rich are always the same. And what I mean by that is the ultra rich had portraits painted of them praying so that they didn't actually have to pray. They just put this painting up and they're like, I'm always praying.
Praying by proxy. So maybe we should just take pictures of ourselves looking like we're praying, so we're praying by proxy.
I'm telling you, we need to have portraits done. We need to have busts done. Could be like, yours can be, what would be your Scotch of choice these days? It used to be Ardbeg. That has changed, I believe.
It's still
Oban. All right, mine would probably still be Lagavulin. Although, man, I'm going to tell you that Glenmorangie.
The Tail Forest was
Tail
incredible.
Forest last week just blew my mind.
Anything else we want to say about before we close up this one?
No, thank you for taking this journey with me. I'm glad
thank you.
You had at least an experience at Pints Pub in the Denver Art Museum. For me, and I think I try not to impose this on anyone else. I don't try to visit the museum and an exhibit all in one day because it's so much to take in when you're really considering what was all of this art saying. And absolutely, if you go visit this exhibit, for me, it's like, wow, look, myself included, people haven't changed. We're greedy, we're selfish, we try to cut corners, we waste food, which is one of the biggest problems in America right now. We are saints, sinners, lovers, and fools.
We are all those things. Thank you for making this our Smart Challenge. It has been great fun to go see the exhibit and a learning experience as well. Once again, if you see a flight of Scotch, order that. Don't order the one dram. No, just jokingly. But it is like anytime you go to an art museum, it's I think it's profound. Really, it's just like I think the paintings are meant to stir emotions, and I think that when you stir emotions and you learn about the paintings, it becomes something special. So with that, my advice is if it's in your city, go check it out when it comes to your city. If you come to Denver, Colorado, and you live here and you have the chance to go, definitely go check it out.
Saints, sinners, lovers, and fools.
All right. So next week, right? We're on to next week. Okay. So next week, this topic is going to be about Wednesday, the new, Netflix show, which is about Wednesday Addams, and the Scotch that's going to go with that. I guess we keep the W here going. It's going to be the Tale of Winter.
Nice. Wednesday Winter. I like it.
It's Glenmorangie.
I like it a lot.
So we'll be trying that next week and talking about Wednesday. And thank you for all those who listen to us. On the audio side of things, where if you listen to us on Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or whatever, thank you, guys. You made our last 3 months really like our best 3 months here so far since we've been doing this. Last month, it was our record month. And I think in one day, we had like 50 downloads, so that was kind of cool. And for those of you who watch us on YouTube and Rumble, thank you very much. We appreciate your support. If you have any comments, please leave some comments for us. We'll be more than happy to answer them. And please like, share, and subscribe. And off to you, Jesse.
Yes, please continue to give us feedback. If you have any scotches you would like us to try beyond or within the $500 range and below, not above, we are happy to do that. And we really do appreciate the feedback. Life is great. We understand it's not always easy, but it should be fun.
Drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly. That's why we didn't stay at Pints Pub. Actually, we literally were just like, all right, so we want.
I did want to stay there a little bit longer.
I know but we had to go enjoy the exhibit. We had to go home, and we were like, we're going to be responsible. So with that, drink responsibly. Next week is sure to be a killer episode. Wednesday Addams. Wednesday on Netflix. If you don't have it, I'm not really trying to advertise for Netflix, by the way. I don't like what they did with Glass Onion, but I also understand it, and I hate that. But I also understand it. But with that Wednesday Addams Tale of Winter, Glenn Morangi. God damn, if it's half as good of a Tale of the Forest, Glenn Morangi, we are in for a treat. Life is great.
And
Scotchman!
Cheers. We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.